If you're a rock fan or artist trying to navigate today's music environment, you may be banging your head against the wall wondering what the hell is going on. I was talking to my friend Mike Lidskin from Troll Radio the other day. He's my favorite online radio DJ and probably the most knowledgeable pop music and culture person that I know. And I posed the question to Mike, is rock really dead? And Mike had something very interesting to say. Mike said, rock is not dead, it's just not part of the current popular idiom. I had to digest that for a second, honestly, because I'd never thought of it that way, but I concluded that he is absolutely right. Not only is he right, I think that's okay. If you think about jazz and classical music, they also don't hold a space in today's popular idiom. They haven't, one for decades, jazz, and the other for centuries, classical. Yet, they still have a place in the music industry. There are still shows, jazz and classical shows. The music is sold, the music is listened to. You can even find it on the radio, mostly on community radio and public radio, but still, it's there. You can find it. So, I think it's an important perspective, really, because we need to reinvent rock. If I had to take a guess of why it has come to this, I would venture a few thoughts. First of all, I think with the advent of the internet, we have all these options. We have, TikTok, you have YouTube, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. You have all these things that are all begging for our attention. We're constantly bombarded by ads and messages, begging us to come back online and participate, right? When I was a kid growing up, I had bad TV, I had my basketball team, I had print media, and I had music, whether it was records or radio. And honestly, TV sucked. I was not smart enough or interested enough to read print media, so I invested most of my time to playing basketball and listening to music. Those are my things when I was growing up. The teenager nowadays has all these other options, and they're like focused on all of that, right? So music plays a smaller part in everyone's life than it did when I was growing up. But this doesn't explain why rock has lost its popular flavored appeal. And so I think we should take a look at that a little bit closer. If you think about rock and roll back in the day, right, when we were teenagers, or at least when I was a teenager, I don't know how old you are, rock was rebellious. It was anarchic. It was chaotic. And certainly our parents didn't like it. And our parents were concerned about the records we were listening to and the album covers that we were looking at. And, it was all, and that was the rebelliousness in our teenage years coming out, right? Now, granted, you establish a bond with that music during that time, and that stays with you forever, right? But I think if you look at it nowadays, the people that listen to rock are the people that are my age. Now, we're the parents, we're the grandparents, and the teenagers don't want to listen to what we're listening to. They're going to find their own thing. They're going to find the thing that they like and also annoys us. And that's where all these other new genres come into play. That some of them we don't get. I don't get reggaeton. I despise it. Yet it's extremely popular. All my little nephews and nieces are totally into it. Nevertheless, I believe that rock will come back around. I think music, culture, fashion, all those things are cyclical. And there's going to be a time, and it's definitely not going to be this generation. It may not be the next generation, but there will be a time when it will come back around and it will be relevant again and it will dominate the airwaves and all that good stuff once again. In the meantime, if you're a rock fan or a rock musician trying to navigate today's environment, Then I would say there's a few things you can do to consider, starting by taking a page off the jazz and the classical book. Most every city and town, whether big or small, has at least one rock club. If you're a fan, go to these venues. Pay the entrance to get in, support the local acts, get on their mailing list, spread the word. If there's a new person in town, tell them about it, support these venues so they stay open. These are the places where like-minded people will gather to celebrate rock, to celebrate what they're passionate about and what they love and what they like. You can also start a page on Facebook or on Instagram or something about the local music scene. These are concepts and ideas that are not new. They've been around forever. I remember when I was in Washington, D.C., I was part of the whole Discord movement with Fugazi and Minor Threat and those bands. And, we had fanzines, and that's how the word got around. And we went to the shows, and we paid our $5 to get in, and it was awesome. It was like going to church for me. One really important thing to remember is if you go to a show and you like it, let the artist know. Go over there, shake his hand. This makes a huge difference to us. It keeps us coming back even when we're not making any money. At the end of the day, the real musicians don't play music because they make money doing it. They play music because they can't help it. That's a real musician. And if people are struggling, people are leaving their heart out on the stage, the least you can do is go up there and let them know that you enjoyed their show. Also, seek out community radio shows. There are great radio shows that nobody's heard about. Don't, get off the commercial stations. I mean, they honestly, it's crap. They play the same 20 songs on rotation for weeks on end. And it's always the flavor of the month. I want somebody that digs deeper. Listen to Mike Litzkin's show, Twirl Radio. I mean, it is awesome, honestly. And Mike never repeats music. He's constantly changing music, and he's got his thumb on what's going on. The real stuff that's buried, the real underground. And ultimately, that's where rock and roll came from. It was the underground. It became something else over time. Certainly the 80s were no great example of what rock should be. But it came from the underground. It was real. It was raw. Now, if you're a rock musician, on the other hand, and you're trying to figure things out, here's a couple of pointers that you may not have thought about. First of all, if you're not a member of a PRO organization, join one today. ASCAP, BMI, whichever, just join one. These organizations have customer or artist representatives that are there to kind of help you navigate things that may not be readily accessible to you. I think getting access to A&R reps, getting access to sync agencies who very often do not take unsolicited material. These guys can help you knock on those doors and get in, right? I think, believe it or not, lawyers is another really good option. So entertainment lawyers are really well connected. They depend on a vast network. So if you can get a lawyer on retainer and get him to work for you, to open some doors. I mean, these guys are everywhere. They know everyone, and they can help you. They can help you get to where you need to get in order to be somewhat successful, commercially successful with your music. If you're in New York or LA or Nashville, it's easy to find a lawyer, honestly. No big deal. If you're in a smaller town, I'm in Sacramento, California. Honestly, I don't know of any entertainment lawyers here. It's going to be a little bit harder. So talk to other people, talk to other artists, talk to other acts, maybe acts that have been a little bit more advanced or more successful than yourself, and say, hey, who represents you? Get their agents' names and figure, start building your own network, because otherwise, honestly, the music industry is absolutely about the network. I would say that the network is even more important than the talent. Of course, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have the talent, but the network is incredibly important. Once you've found somebody that you think you want to represent you, make sure to get an introductory meeting, have coffee with that person, visit their office, whatever. Get them to know your face, establish that relationship, and get that person to work for you. Some lawyers will be willing to meet with you free. Others may ask you to pay and put that money against your account or whatever. I mean, there are a number of different ways this can work. But the point is, seek them out, get a relationship going, and get them to work for you. All in all, if you ask me, rock and roll is not dead. To quote Mr. Neil Young, rock and roll will never, ever die. So strap on a guitar, crank up that Marshall, and annoy the crap out of your neighbors. It's the rock and roll way. Thanks for watching.